Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. On a good day, or rather a bad day in San Francisco, the smog that you see in the sky comes from Shanghai. So air quality and air pollution is a growing world concern. It's very difficult to contain within country or within a city. There are seasonal effects. The fires in Indonesia creates pollution in Singapore. And air pollution results in the release of heavy metals, fine and ultrafine particles that penetrate deep into the lung, aromatic hydrocarbons, other organic and inorganic irritants to the airways, and things such as ozone, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, and carbon monoxide gases that prevent us from being able to breathe in the free and easy way that we want to. And air pollution has been linked by the World Health Organization to 3.7 million deaths. 88% of these deaths occur in low and middle income countries. 60% of China has very poor air quality, and 38% of the Chinese population are worried about respiratory illness and air quality. Southeast Asian countries and Western Pacific countries are highly affected by air pollution, partly because of the high level of industry that they have going on in the country, but also things such as the climate, the winds, the way the lands lie that cause air pollution to accumulate and gather over countries, over populated areas. And air pollution increases the burden of chronic and acute diseases, heart disease, COPD, asthma, pneumonia, strokes, heart attacks are all increased in countries that have high levels of air pollution. So the inhalation of airborne hazards results in immune cell activation and infiltration into the lungs, as the lungs are endeavouring to get rid of these particles, these gases, these irritants out of the body, protecting us from what we're breathing in. This increased immune cell activation and infiltration leads to mucus production and cytokine production that clogs our airways, leads to tissue edema, swelling, coughing, and over time can lead to things such as fibrosis and scarring, reducing the efficiency of our lungs to actually be able to work. Penetrance of particles, very small particles, less than 4 microns in diameter, these penetrate deep into our lungs. Our lungs we cannot cough these out. They accumulate, they reside, they become focal points for fibrosis, and they can penetrate through the epithelial cell wall and enter the systemic circulation. However, we do have epidemiological evidence that in general, diets high in fruit and vegetables can prevent or reduce the impact of diseases. We all know that if we eat lots of fruit and vegetables, we will be healthier, we will have less heart disease, we will be less obese, we will have less cancer. These are the messages that keep on coming out. We also have clinical evidence that, in, for example, asthma, we have improved outcome measures, less wheeze, less coughing, if our asthma patients take diets high in fruit and vegetables. We also have seen that there is a decrease in the age-related lung function decline that happens to all of us over time if we consume a diet high in fruits and vegetables. So we know that fruit and vegetables are going to do something. So this is some previous work that we've done, which is a preclinical model of chronic allergic inflammation. In this model, we used mice. We challenged the mice repeatedly with ovalbumin, which is an allergen, to establish a chronic inflammation. After we had established a baseline chronic inflammation state within the lung, we then came in with our intervention. We still continue to challenge these animals because we're not looking to cure asthma with fruit, but we're looking to see if we can improve the asthma outcome with an alteration in diet. So we had ongoing inflammation as well as an intervention. And at the end of the study, we took blood, we took tissue, we looked at proteins, we looked at cells, we looked at cytokines, and in an attempt to identify what was going on. And this is what we found. What we found was with berry consumption, we reduced airways inflammation. We reduce mucus production, we reduce cell infiltration, as you can see here. So we've reduced our number of eosinophils. We've also reduced our amount of pro-inflammatory iNOS protein and increased our amount of arginase, anti-inflammatory protein, in a significant fashion. So we know that that through berry supplementation, we can reduce cell infiltration and increase anti-inflammatory proteins. We also, and quite excitingly, particularly for the priority program looking at pollution, reduced lung fibrosis in a very dramatic fashion. As you can see here, the dark blue is collagen deposition in the lung, in the tissue, in the airways where we don't want it. We can see that when we treat with berry, the collagen is reduced. It is where it should be. It's not invading into the tissue. And when we use hydroxyproline as our measure of actual collagen amount within the lung, we have a significant decrease in collagen proteins within the lung when we treat with berry as well as over. And we believe that this is happening through an increase in metalloproteinase 9 protein. Metalloproteinase 9 is a protein that breaks down collagens and gelatinins within the lung, and we found that with over plus berry, we get an increase in our MMP9 protein here, which leads to a decrease in our ratio of the inhibitor of MMP9 to MMP9 protein, which is beneficial for reducing fibrosis, and we get more cells here that are staining positive for MMP9. So, we know that in a model of asthma, we can influence fibrosis and inflammation by using fruit. So where we're going with this is, can we do the same with pollution? Pollution is different. Pollution will persist in the lung. Pollution is particles. So we need to establish some models of pollution-driven inflammation within the lung. How will we determine our protection? What is our mechanism behind our protection? Is it going to be the same for asthma as it is for pollution? What are our active compounds in our fruits and vegetables that we need to be feeding people? And can we create food products? Most importantly, can we create food products that have a benefit to people living in a polluted environment? And can we create products that they are going to want to use? There's no point in us creating something magical if people are simply not going to use it. So this is how we're going to do it. We're going to start with a little mouse, and we're going to expose our little mouse to a variety of pollutants. Diesel exhaust particles, which contain heavy metals and polyaromatic hydrocarbons. Urban particulate matter, this is particulate matter collected from an urban environment which contains a wide variety of things: endotoxins, allergens, small particles, large particles, organic compounds, inorganic compounds, and also ultrafine particles that should penetrate deep within the lung, reside in the lung, and act as a focal point for fibrosis development. We're going to look at this in an acute fashion and also in a chronic repeated exposure fashion, because some people will be exposed to pollution over very short periods of time, but other people who have to live in environments that are highly polluted are exposed for a very long period of time, and we want to see what those differences are. We're also going to look at comorbidities. We understand from looking from the literature that children who live in environments that are polluted have worse asthma. So we're going to look using the house dust mite model of asthma. What happens if we induce asthma in mice that have been exposed to air pollutants? Is their response worse than mice that have been exposed to house dust mite without those pollutants? Is the response worse for mice that are exposed to both house dust mite and air pollutants than mice that are just exposed to air pollutants? We're going to look at all of these things. We can also look at things such as dysbiosis. What happens if your microbiota is perturbed? Does that alter your response to pollution, air pollution? And what happens if you are in a polluted environment and get a viral or bacterial infection? These are things that we can model in our preclinical model. We will also be using our preclinical model to identify outcome measures. One of the challenges that we face in this project is that there isn't a nice, easy, well-accepted, clearly defined set of outcome parameters that are recognized worldwide. So we need to do a little bit of work. We need to identify outcome measures that we can translate into the clinic. So we will be looking at things such as airways, resistance and compliance, and elasticity. Gosh, that word is hard to say. We will also be looking at things such as cellular infiltration within the tissue. We will be looking at systemic effects because these are really easy to measure in people. People don't like it when you take their lungs out. I can do it in a mouse, but I cannot do it in a person. So we need to find surrogate measures that we can measure in the blood and relate that back to the damage that we're seeing within the tissue so that we can identify and screen candidate food products in our preclinical model and then translate the findings in our preclinical model into the human and be able to say, this has gone up in people, we know we're on a winner. Using the information that we've gathered from our preclinical models, we will be able to identify lead food products that have a degree of efficacy in the preclinical model that we can then use confidently in clinical trials. And it just remains for me to thank the project leader, Roger Hurst, our program leader, Liz Forbes-Blom, Jackie Harper, and Greg Sawyer, who have worked on the asthma program, the MB program for inappropriate inflammation that funded the asthma work, and the New Zealand Berry Industries who provided samples in kind. Thank you very much.